Today we will study chapter 3 in organizational communication. Okay, so this chapter is about what? Is about the humanistic theories of organization. So in the previous chapter we have studied the classical theories of organization. We will review it fast, okay? So classical theories of organization, we had three theories, which was Taylor's theory of scientific management, Fayol's administrative theory, Weber's or Max Weber's theory of bureaucracy. Today we will study humanistic theories of organization, which are human relations theory, that is Hawthorne studies, Chester Bernard, McGregor's theory X and Y, and human resources theory, which is Likert system theory for systems of management, and Blake's and Monton's managerial grit. So, as a review of the previous chapter, classical theories of organization. First, we had Frederick Taylor, theory of scientific management. His focus was on the tasks, how workers perform tasks in the organization and how tasks need to be performed in the best way. After that, Henry Fayol came, which he established administrative theory, which his focus was on the management of the organizations. After Henry Fayol, Max Weber founded theory or developed the theory of bureaucracy, which his focus was on organizational structure, so how to structure an organization. So all these three theories attempt to enhance management's ability to predict and control the behavior of their workers. So all these three theories' main purpose was to make the management predict what workers, how workers will behave, and was to make the management control the workers better. So in these theories, they only considered the task function of the workers. Their focus was on the tasks to be done, but they ignored the relation and functions of communication. So, if we make a comparison between classical theories and humanistic theories, classical theories, they emphasize coercion. Coercion means making someone to do something by force. So forcing something to do someone to do something. So making others do things by force. Okay, and so they are focusing on coercion, control, and punishment of the workers. So they want what? They want to control the workers. They want to have authority and big power for decision making from the top of the management to the bottom as the shape of hierarchy or the pyramid. And they were willing to minimize input from lower level employees, meaning that they wanted to make the lower level employees, the workers, work more with less payments. They relied mostly on science and rules to guide their staff or their workers. Also, they wanted to regulate the communication among workers and the management to increase predictability and decrease misunderstanding. So these are the focuses of the classical theories of management. So out of these rules or out of these willingness that they had, these principles that they had, what was the result? The result was workers, they felt they have no control over their work situation. So they felt like they are like a machine. They cannot control what they are doing. They are just being told to do something and they're doing that thing like a machine. So they feel like they have no control over what they're doing. Also, management does not care about their ideas. So the management never cared about the ideas of the workers and the employees because they were not listening to them. They were not even taking their ideas into consideration. The management, the top management, were the only level of management who was able to make decisions, to establish plans, and make orders. Also, one of the other results was the feelings and ideas of workers are unimportant. So in this theory, the workers were ignored. So their ideas was not important. How they feel was not important at all. So they ignored their feelings, they ignored their ideas, and this leads to kill the creativity in the workers because they were treated like they are machines, just to perform what they have been told, and that's it. So when humanistic theories developed, it was so much different from the classical theories. So humanistic theories were developed to promote the concerns of individual worker in an atmosphere that was too focused on production. So in the atmosphere of classical theories, in the environment of classical theories, the only focus was on production and performing tasks. So when the humanistic theory came, they said, no, this cannot be the only way to treat your employees, and maybe this will not result in good performance, higher production. So there should be focus on relational and communication and behavior of the workers. So let's start with human relations theory. The principles of human relations theory. The first principle is human relations theory is characterized by a shift in emphasis from task to worker. So in classical theory, the focus was on task. In human relation theory, they shifted, so they changed, they moved from task to worker. So the focus was on the workers, okay? Another principle is go beyond physical contributions in order to include creativity, cognitive, and emotional aspects of worker. So this means that in classical theories, the only focus was on physical things, how this worker work, how that worker do his job, how to make them produce more and more. That was it. But in principles of human relations theory, they included creativity. So they wanted the workers to be more creative, to share their ideas, to think. So they were listening to them. Also, they considered their emotions because they believe that, this theory believes that emotional aspect of workers is important. If a worker is happy, they will perform better at their job. If they are not happy and they are emotionally unstable or frustrated or having any negative emotions because of the work environment or because of the management, their productivity will decrease. So this theory included creativity, cognitiveness, and emotional aspects of workers. Another principle, the third one, is based on more dyadic, means two-way conceptualization of communication, meaning that this theory based on two-way communication. Two-way communication means manager here and employees here. So they can both communicate with each other. They can both talk to each other and listen to each other. But in the classical theory, only managers gave order, employees needed to listen. So it was one-way communication. Management decide, employees follow. But in human relation, no, it's a two-way communication. They both listen to each other. They both share ideas. And even employees can have suggestions for planning and organizing and decision-making processes. Another principle is social relationships that are at the heart of organizational behavior. So social relationships was one of the most important parts in the organizational behavior and human relation theories, because they believe that social relationships among the staff, among the workers, and between them and the management is very effective for making workers perform better, for making workers to feel good, to achieve social well-being of the workers. Also, another principle is workers communicate opinions, complaints, suggestions, and feelings to increase satisfaction and production. This means what? This means workers, they can share their opinions and ideas, talk about their opinions and ideas. They can complain if they are not happy with something. They can complain, they can say it. They can even suggest new ideas, new solutions, so they are able to suggest. And also, they are allowed to share their feelings, to express their feelings. All these things was for what? Was to increase the satisfaction of employees and the production of employees. So this is another principle of human relations theory. So where did these relations came from? Which studies? The origins is Hawthorne studies and the work of Chester Bernard. Also, we have Human Relations School of Management, which was led by Alton Mayo at Harvard University. So the origins of human relations theory, we have Hawthorne studies. Hawthorne works of Western Electric Company, so he was working in an electric company in 1924 in Chicago. So he made some research and he conducted some research, and his research focus was on the relation of quality and quantity of illumination of efficiency in industry. So he wanted to know what is the relation of quality of work and the quantity of work, and how this is related to the efficiency of the workers and the performance of the workers in that industry or in that company. So he made 4 important studies. Let's start how he did that. So, first one, illumination study in November in November 1924. So he did what? He designed to test the effect of lightning intensity on worker productivity. So he wanted to know the lightnings, the lights that are coming inside a room from the window, even the lights that are set, the electric, everything, how intensity, okay, of this light, how the power of this light affects the worker productivity. This was his first study. Then he studied heuristic value. Heuristic value means the influence of human relation of workers' behavior, meaning that how are the relationships between workers, between management, between worker and management, and this relationship has influence on the behavior of the worker. So it affects the behavior of the workers. So this was his first study in 1924. After that, in 1927 to 1932, he did another study, which is called Relay Assembly Test Room Study. Let's see what is this. So assembly of telephone relays, 35 parts and 4 machine screws. So he brought 4 machines to study the assembly of telephone. So he tested the production and satisfaction of the employees. So he understood that production and satisfaction will increase regardless of IV manipulation. Workers increased production and satisfaction related to supervisory practices. So this means that the way that supervisors, the managers, deal with their staff, it affects their production and satisfaction. And it's related to the way they are interacting with them. So human interrelationships are important contributing factors to worker productivity. So he found that relationships between humans are very important and it's affect the productivity of the worker. So the bottom line is supervisory practices increase employee moral and productivity. So this was another his studies. Then in 1928 to 1930, he had another program which is called interviewing program. In this program, he investigated the connection between supervisory practices and employee morale. So he wanted to know what are the connection between what supervisors or managers do, how they act with their employees, and how this affects the morals, okay, the principles, the ethics of the employees. So here, employees express their ideas and feelings. So he found that if the employees are able or are allowed to express their ideas and feelings, such as what they like, what they don't like, it will, and they are listened to by their supervisors and managers, it will of course affect their production and their moral at work. And process is more important than actual results. So he believed that the process of the work, from the first point to the last point, the process of how to do things is more important than the results. Because in the classical management theory, they only focused on the results. They didn't care about the process. But here, Hawthorne understood that process, how to do things, how the relationships are more important than the actual results, because the process itself will be a main factor of how the results will be. All right? So another study in 1931 until May of 1932, bank wiring room observation study. So let's see what was this study. So in this study, he found out social groups can influence production and individual work behavior. So meaning that, of course, always at work, there are groups like 2-3 people, 5-6 people, they become friends. For example, they go for lunch together, or even sometimes they work together for performing some teamwork tasks. So he found that these social groups at work can influence the production of each individual and can influence the behavior of each individual within that group. So a group of people influences the individuals of that group. So he asked a question: how is social control manifested on the shop floor? So how social control, how the social behaviors affects the workers on at the workplace. So here he found out informal organization constraints employee behavior within formal organizational structure, meaning that, as we mentioned, when at work you become friends with some of your colleagues. For example, you go out for dinner together, you go out for a picnic together, even at work you go for lunch together, so you have informal group together, not formal groups. So the combination of these informal groups within an organization affects the behavior of those employees inside the formal organization. So Hawthorne study, they had some implications, some results or some outputs. Let's read them one by one. So in his elimination study in November 1924, the mere practice of observing people's behavior tends to until their behavior. So his result was what? How you are observing the people, you as a manager, how you observe the people's behavior at your organization, it will affect and change their behavior. Another one, a relay assembly test room study, he found out relationships between workers and their supervisors are powerful. So he believed that the relationship between workers and supervisors, or workers and their managers, are very powerful. Also, human interrelationships increase the amount of quality of worker participation in decision making, meaning that the relationships between the staff inside the organization, and as much as these relationships are stronger, it will increase the amount of and quality, so the quantity and the quality of workers' participation in decision making. So the workers will be more motivated. Also, in interviewing program, which was demonstrated powerful influence of upward communication. So this program believed that there is a very strong influence or a powerful influence of upward communication. Upward communication means from the bottom to the top, from the employees to the management. So workers were asked for opinions. They told they were mattered, so they told that you are important. The workers being told that they are important, and positive attitudes towards. So this resulted in positive attitudes in the workers toward the organization, of course. Then in Banquarian Room observation study, he found out the result was it was led future theories to account for the existence of informal communication. So this theory helped future theories, future studies to consider the importance of informal communication inside the organization. So altogether, this study helped to document a very powerful nature of social relationships at workplace and moved managers more forward or toward the interpersonal aspects of an organization. So this was a base for further research in the future, and it moved managers from the classical theories to the more modern theories or to the human relation theories, and managers understood that relationships and interpersonal aspects in organizations are very important. So, of course, there is no study without criticism. There will be always criticism. So what were those criticisms about the Hawthorne study? One of them was it did not conduct it within the appropriate scientific rigor necessary. So they believe that it's not scientific enough. And too few subjects. So they believe that very few variables or aspects were considered. And another criticism that this theory has no control groups, so there is no a specific group of people that they studied on. Also, subjects replaced with more cooperative participants. Maybe they haven't studied this in a wider population, or they didn't make the number of the workers, more number of the workers to participate in the study. So they had these criticisms were, of course, therefore the theory. So even some criticism said that this is worthless and there are errors and it's not suitable or it's incompetence. So these were criticisms about this study, but we cannot ignore the fact that this study was a very basic and important study for the future human relationship other theories that developed based on the Hawthorne studies. And Hawthorne was itself an evolution from the classical theories to the behavioral theories. Okay. Here we move to the emergence of communication. We have Chester Bernard. This was another scientist. He developed a theory that was focused on the communication and the importance of communication inside the organization. So Chester Bernard considered a bridge between classical and human relations theory. So he's considered as well as a bridge between the classical theories and human relations theories. So the functions of the executive, when he did it in 1938. And he argues what? He argues a few points, which are strict lines of communication. In the classical theory, he believed that those strict lines of communication in the classical theory is no longer effective or cannot, organizations cannot go on the same direction. So a human-based system or organization. So he focused on a human-based system of organization. Then another point, he argued that the potential of every worker and the certainty of centrality of communication to the organization process. So he believed that every worker's potential need to be considered, and he argued the centrality of communication in the organization. So he believed that of course, in the classical theory, the communication is centralized, okay? So everything comes from the top management. But he argued this one. So he issued six problems that are related to the organizational communication. What are those 6 issues that are relevant to the organizational communication? The first one is formal and informal organization. Another one is cooperation, then communication, then incentives, then authority, then zone of indifference. So he determined these 6 issues in the organizational communication. So let's discuss those 6 issues that are relevant to the organizational communication. What are those 6 issues, or what are those problems that is related to the organizational communication? So the first one is formal versus informal organization. So formal organization is a system of consciously coordinated activities or forces of 2 or more persons. So meaning that 2 or more persons together, they do something, they help each other, they perform a task that is asked or assigned by the organization or the management. So it should be definite structures, and there should be a common purpose, or there should be a shared goal, such as, for example, a dean and his assistant or her assistant together, they do or perform the faculty's tasks. So they are a formal group inside a formal organization. So here, in formal organization, persons are able to communicate with one another. Of course, they are willing to contribute action. They want to do something. They want to perform tasks. And of course, they are there to accomplish a common purpose or achieve goals. While informal organization is based on myriad interaction that take place throughout an organization history, meaning that there are informal groups that are organized inside the organization. So there is not a definition, or there is not a structure for those informal groups. There is no need to share a goal maybe together. So what are the results of these informal organization groups? The results is they are what they say, they might help each other in the future in the formal organizational groups. So me and you, let's say 2, 3 of us are friends in the organization together. We have a group of friendship among us that sometimes make us even help each other in our formal organization group, okay? Then we have cooperation. Cooperation is a very necessary component of formal organization. Cooperation means helping each other, working together, and helping each other. So it's necessary for formal organization. And the expression of the net satisfactions or dissatisfactions experienced or anticipated by each individual in comparison with those experienced or anticipated through alternative opportunities. Meaning that, what's the meaning of this? So the meaning of this, cooperation inside organization will lead to either satisfaction or dissatisfaction by the employees, okay? So if you see a group of people, or if you see a department inside an organization that they are very cooperative. The members, the employees of that department, they are very cooperative to each other or with each other. So the level of satisfaction will be higher. While if there are not proper cooperation among individuals inside an organization or within a department, the level of satisfaction will decrease. This is cooperation. Then we have communication. Communication is very important, very critical to cooperation, because without a good communication, you cannot help each other well, you cannot help each other in a good way and understand each other. So without a good communication, there is no good cooperation, and vice versa. So the most universal form of human cooperation, and perhaps the most complex, is speech. So I believe you studied communication in the previous semester. It's mentioned that there are ways to communicate, which is by talking, by writing, by body language. So the most universal form of human cooperation is through communication is through speech. This is the most universal one. So the most likely reason for success of cooperation, and it's the reason for its failure. So good communication will result in a good cooperation. Bad communication will result in a poor cooperation. So system of communication, known and formal channels which are direct. So it's very important in organization to have a system of communication and to know how to communicate with each other, to be aware of the channels of the communication. And it's important the supervisors, the line managers communicate well with their staff and encourage their staff to communicate more and better with each other. So Bernard's system lacks relationship formation and maintenance mechanisms. So criticism of Bernard's system is he focuses on communication more, but lacks in how to form relationships and maintain them. Then we have incentives. Incentives means how you motivate your staff, such as we call it incentive in the HR and in management sciences. So incentives mean, for example, you did something good, I will give you an appreciation letter, or you did something more than that is required from you, I give you a bonus or maybe a amount of money as an incentive, as a reward. So intensive is very important and should be available in organization, but it was not discussed in detail in this theory. This is another point. Another point is authority. Authority means power. Who has authority over the other? Who has power over the other? So it's associated with securing cooperation for the organizational member. Okay, so it's related to what? To how to make the staff, the members, cooperate with each other. So it's very important for those people who has authority, such as leaders, supervisors, managers, to make sure that the organizational members are cooperative among each other. Also, the interrelationship among the originator of the communication and the communication itself. So this focuses on what? On the relationship between the sender and the receiver, the communicator. So who has authority or over their staff, who has authority as a position, who has authority as a leader, so who has the ability to be authorized. So this one says that throughout communication, throughout cooperation, we can choose leaders for each team and even give position to some members and promote them. After that, we have zone of indifference or orders followed. It marks the boundaries of what employees will consider doing without question. So it says that how employees see things and consider things without questioning based on expectations that is developed throughout their work at the organization. So sometimes employees in organization, even without telling them something, even without they ask you something, they have expectations and they are expecting how things will go, how things will be performed inside the organization. And this has developed based on what? It has developed based on their experience inside the organization. So Bernard drew attention away from formal organizational structure toward communication, cooperation, and informal organization. So his focus was on communication, cooperation, and informal organizations. So his work was integrated by other theories in the human relations movement. Here we have Theory X and Theory Y by Douglas McGregor. This theory is very easy to understand. So Douglas McGregor in 1906 to 1964, he was born in 1906 and passed away in 1964. So he developed theory X and Y. This theory X and Y, he developed it based on the principles of human relations theory, and he focuses on the human side of the organizations. He wanted to understand human behavior, why they behave in a certain way, and he wanted to discover some theoretical assumptions based on humans' behavior. So he was very interested in the behavior of the manager toward the workers, and he believed that every managerial act rests on assumptions, generalizations, hypotheses. So he believed that what management do is based on what they are assuming, how they are thinking, how they want to generalize the decisions and principles. So he had two objectives, two goals. First one, to predict and control behavior. The second one is to tap unrealized potential. So based on this, he developed Theory X and Theory Y. Theory X is mostly, he believed that, are for those employees who are lazy, who does not like to work, who think more about securing a job, get their payment, and then go home. They are not motivated. They need a manager and or a supervisor always to monitor them and tell them what to do. So he believed that those people who are under Theory X, who behave in this way, it's better to be managed through a classical theory. While he had Theory Y, which are those employees who are very motivated, who are doing their tasks and performing their job even without telling them. They have suggestions and they initiate into making work better. They are always motivated. They don't need to be monitored. They are self-disciplined. So these people, or those people who are under Theory Y, they can be dealt with through human relations theory. So the focus of this theory was on managers' assumptions about human nature. So he divided human into two groups, Theory X and Theory Y, based on the human nature. Theory X are those people who, by nature, they need to be controlled, they don't like work, they are lazy, they are not motivated, they are not self-disciplined. While Theory Y are those people who are disciplined, motivated, they don't need control, you can rely on them, and they love to work, they love their job. Okay. If we go more on detail about theory X, so the three assumptions, as we mentioned, the average human being has inherent dislike of work. So they don't like work, they want to avoid work. They need to be controlled, direct, even sometimes they need to be punished or threatened in order to do their job. And they found out, this study found out the average human being prefers to be directed. They want to be told what to do. They want to be directed and told how to do things. And they wish to avoid responsibility. They don't like responsibility. And they are not ambitious. And they only seek for security. So they want a job. They want to get their payment by end of the month, want to be secured, and that's it. While theory Y are those people who are physically and mentally, they like job. Okay, they like to work and they put effort at their work. Okay, so they don't need an external control or threat or punishment because they will do their job without telling them, and they are always motivated. They are committed to the objectives and the functions of the position or the tasks that they have been asked to do, and they see it as an achievement for themselves as well. So they seek responsibility. They like to be responsible. Also, they have the capacity to practice high imagination. So they are smarter, they are more creative, they imagine more, they always try to find solution for problems. And so another part of people are under this group. Okay, so they are more positive. They like job. They think work is natural, and there is no need to control them. We have theory Y, which are those people who are motivated to work. There's a prototype. Okay, so there was a study on this theory, which is called the Scanlon Plan. So what they did, they believe that management should be participative. Employees should be participating in the management processes. And there were two central features. What were those two central features or characteristics or like focuses? The first one was cost reduction, sharing for organizational member, and the second one, effective participation. So in the first feature, they wanted to reduce cost through sharing organizational members in the management processes. So sharing the economic gains from improvement to organizational performance. So they did not focus only on economic gains, on the financial gains for the company, but they also wanted to improve the performance of organization. The second feature, effective participation, means a formal means or ways of providing opportunities to every member of the organization to contribute ideas for improving organizational effectiveness, meaning that before only management decided things. Now they want employees also to come and participate. So they wanted employees to have a chance to participate, share ideas, make suggestions in order to improve organizational effectiveness. So this must be implemented appropriately if you want to motivate your staff to be under theory X. You need to implement these two central features properly. You need to know how time will be wasted, how the managers, how much the managers has power. You need to know the problems and has solutions or suggest solutions for the problems. Then, as need to increase commitment grows, so does the need to develop strong. So, as much as the commitment is needed in the organization, The communication also is important. The relationships are also important, especially among the supervisors and their staff. We have another theory which is called Miles Human Resources Theory. So, what is Miles Human Resources Theory? So, Miles has some principles to human resource theory. The first one, it says that it's difficult to adopt principles of human relations theory. Misapplications and misunderstanding of both classical theory and human relations theory led to human resource theory. So, misunderstanding between the human relations theory and classical theory together, they led to what? They resulted in human resource theory. So the key element to human relations theory, participation, was used only to make workers feel as if they are part of the organizational decision-making process. So what was the key element, the core purpose of human relations theory? Was to make the workers participate in the management processes and decision-making processes in order they feel like they are part of the organization, not only a machine to do the work. So key to classical and human relations theory is compliance with managerial authority. So it's related to the authority of management. So both human relations theory and classical theory, their focus is on the managerial authority. The classical theory thinks management should has all authority, but the human relations theory thinks that employees also should be part of the decision making, and their ideas and thoughts should be listened to. So workers are told that they are important, but they were not treated as such. So the treatment was still not like what they have been taught. So major distinctions between human resource and human relations theory. What are the differences between human resources and human relations? All people, not just managers, are reservoirs of untapped resources. Managers' responsibility to tap physical and creative resources. So the first point says that all people, managers and employee, all of them are responsible of what they are doing, and they are resources of the organization. They are all important resources of the organization. Another point says many decisions can be made more effectively and efficiently by worker most directly involved with their consequences. So it says that the workers that are directly involved in a job or in a task, they can make more effective and efficient decisions because they are those individuals who perform the task. Another point says that relationship between employee satisfaction and performance, improved satisfaction and morale contribute back to improve decision making and control. So it says that the relationship between employees satisfaction and their performance is involved in what? It's affected by what? Is affected by how much they are they are listened to, and they are in the decision-making process. So, as much as the employees are involved in the decision-making process, they are more satisfied. As much as they are more satisfied, they perform better. Continuing with Mill's human resource theory. So this theory says is increased satisfaction. Increased satisfaction is related to the improved decision-making and self-control that occurs due to participation that is genuinely solicited and heard. So if staff are part in the decision-making process and this process is more improved, the satisfaction will increase. Then we have two prevalent human resource theory. Rensselaer and Blake and Monton grid. So human resource theories, it was explained through two different theories, which are Rensselaer and Blake and Monton. So four systems of, we have, let's start with Rensselaer. What is Rensselaer? It's called four systems of management. So Rensis suggested that there are four systems of management. The first one, management is critical to all organizational activities and outcomes. So management is important and critical for everything in the organization. The second point is continuum that ranges from more classically oriented system to one based on human resources theory. So he believes that the classical systems should move to human resource systems. The third point is all of the tasks of management, managing the human component is central and most important task. So it says that the tasks of the management that are related on how they manage the human are very important tasks. They need to be pay attention to. And high producing departments and organizations tend toward system which is low producing units favor system. So they believe that those departments and organizations, they are very productive. They are more towards system 4, which is the participative system. So system 1 is exploitative authoritative, which is the management is the center of everything. System 2 is benevolent authoritative system, which is number 2 here, which is this number, that is classical, moving from classically oriented system to a human resource theory, so it's a shift. The third one is consultative, how to give importance to your staff and consult them. But the fourth one is how much your staff are participative in your department, in your system, in your decision making. So he believed that the last one is more effective. Then we have Blake and Monton's managerial grid. You will study this theory also in leadership course in the next semesters. Blake and Monton managerial grid suggested that stresses the interrelationship between production and people. So it focuses on the relationship between production and people, or task and people. So management's main purpose is to promote a culture in the organization that allows for high production at the same time that employees are fostered in their professional and personal involvement. So this managerial grid focuses on promoting and improving the production, let's say increasing the production, while at the same time how to make the individuals professionally develop themselves. So the focus was on the manager's assumptions about concerns for people and concern for production. So it believes that manager has two concerns. There are two things that are important for managers. The first one is the people, the second one is production. And how to know what are the types of those managers or management styles. Let's read them. The first one, concern for people. Those who has the big concern for people, so they think people or the employees are very important. The degree of personal commitment to one's job, how much one person is committed to their job. The second point is trust-based accountability, how much there is trust and obedience among the employees. Then the self-esteem for the individual, then interpersonal relationship with the coworkers. So the focus was on the individuals or the people. The second one, concern for production. So it says use of people and technology to accomplish organizational tasks. Are those management who focuses on the production and performing tasks, how to use people and technology to accomplish the tasks. The second point, concern for, is not about quantity or quality. So the concern is not about the quality and the quantity of the staff, but the production. So assessment instrument does not represent personality traits of the manager. Instead, indicates a specific orientation to production and people. So here, it's not about how the manager's personality is, how are the characteristics of the leader and manager, but the focus is on the management is either product-oriented or people-oriented. So we can explain it here in this grid. If you see, we have here 1.9, okay, which is authority compliance, classical theory. So 1.9 means we have, of course, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 until 9. This is concern for people. So as much as we go high, we have more concern about people. Here we have concern for production. As much as we go high to the number 9, there is a more concern for production. So we have 1.9, attention. 1.9 means 1 here, which is the concern for production as at its lowest, and 9 here, which is the concern for people, is at its highest. 1.9 is here. 1.9, okay? Country club, informal Grappevin, okay? Country club. So 1.9, which is here, okay, it says what? The management's attention to needs of people for satisfying relationship leads to comfortable, friendly organization. So here, the most focus is on the people, the least focus is on the production, because production is number 1, okay? People concern is number 9. So the most attention is on people. And the management wants to make the staff satisfied and build good relationship among them. If we move here, 1.1, okay, both people and production are at number 1, which is the least for both of them. So here it's 1.1, it's written impoverished laissez-faire. Also, the laissez-faire is one of the leadership style. Impoverished is management exertion of minimum effort to give work done is appropriate to sustain organization membership. Here, the management does not give any importance for the people and does not give any importance for increasing the production. So it's called laissez-faire leadership style or laissez-faire management, because they have the least focus on both sides and they are letting the staff, the employees themselves, do what they want to do. There are shared goals. Of course, they all know what they are being asked to, but there are no instructions, there are no directions. So the management lets the staff to perform their jobs the way they want. So this is called impoverished, which is 1.1. Then if we move to 9.1 management, 9.1 is here. Authority compliance 9.1, which is mostly the classical theories. 9.1, it says management efficiency of operations results from arranging conditions of work in such way that human elements interfere to minimum degree. Here, the focus is where we have number 9. The focus is very high on the production, but we have number 1 for people, so there is not concern of people. So this is the classical theory. They don't think much about how their staff thinks, how they behave, how they make relations and communicate with each other. The main focus is on the production. Here we have 5.5 management, which is middle of the road. Compromise, carrot and stick. Middle of the road meaning the medium or like average of both of them. So it's in the middle, 5 from people, 5 from production. So here is adequate organization performance is possible through balancing the necessity to get outward with maintaining morale of people at satisfactory level. So here there is an average or a medium focus for production and a medium focus for people. So it's called 5.5 management. Of course, the management wants the tasks to be done while maintaining or taking into consideration the morale of people at a satisfactory level. The last one is 9.9 management. Okay, 9 is the highest concern for people here, and of course the highest concern for production here. 9.9 management, which is called team. Okay, team 9.9, which is human resource approach, which is the latest approach that we discussed. It promotes the condition that integrate creativity, high productivity, and high morale through concerted team action. So here, 9.9 management focuses on what? Focuses on teamwork. They want the task to be done. They want to achieve goals. At the same time, they take into consideration the needs and the satisfaction of the team members and the employees inside the organization. So it's based on trust and respect, and also accomplishing the objectives of the organization. Okay, so we are done of today's chapter. We have discussed the humanistic theories, which are human relations theory and human resource theory.